Thanks to Colonial Brewing Co. for sponsoring the pod today.
Thank you, Colonial.
For those of you who may not know,
It's pros and cons time!
Mr. Smith?
Hey, who's that?
David Zaharakis.
Wrong.
How the bloody hell do you say that?
Zaharakis!
Pros and cons.
What is going on, everybody?
Daniel, how are you, mate?
I'm all right. I sound a bit terrible, but I'm a bit sinusy.
Are you okay?
Sorry about that to everyone who's listening.
Are you sure you're okay?
I'm fine. Yeah,
You're going to get through a podcast?
No, I'm really good.
Okay, because we've got two very important guests today.
We do. I'm excited. We've been wanting to get these guys in since we first started because we knew it was going to be juicy.
Yes, very juicy.
We've got a lot to chat on, and you're going to have a lot to chat on because they're your managers, mate.
Yes, they are. We're staying very close to home here.
So Winston Rous and Scottie Lucas, and
Yep.
obviously people might know Scottie, will know Scottie because he's a former Essendon legend.
Yep, former Essendon great. And Winston came on board a long time ago now, and he'll tell you his story, his managerial story. But very excited to have them both on board. I'm sure they might have a few things to share if we go too hard at them.
I know,
especially about me, so I might go a
lot
little
of
bit soft.
stories. I can't wait to grill them about you.
Yes,
I'm
so-
sure they'll be willing.
Yeah, I know. So I'm not sure I'll go too hard.
This industry is really interesting to me because obviously the US-based one is massive, and we're building up towards that. But like, I don't know, maybe 5-10 years ago, this was a small game, and now it's massive.
It is, yes.
And they were there for the small time, and now it's really, really big.
Definitely.
So I'm really keen to hear how their side of things goes. And
Yes.
they got draft coming up, and
It's a very busy time of year for them.
Yeah, had trade week and all
Trade
that.
period, exactly.
So that's going to be great, mate. I heard you started running today.
Yes, first run today on grass. Yes, so
How'd you go?
That was great for 3 months. Mate, I was quite nervous, to be honest. As we know, I've discussed on the podcast, I had the 2 surgeries in the break, and I ran a couple of times on the Alter G, and then ran out on the grass today, and felt good. Got through it, which was good. Tick the box there. We start officially pre-season training on Monday, so hopefully I'll be able just to continue my rehab and run, not miss any sort of sessions in terms of I'll be running while the boys are training. That was kind of a goal for mine, to be able to start when they do as well. So got through that session today. But gee, I'm telling you now, I was nervous. I don't think I've been more nervous running today than what I've been in any of my 200 odd games of playing AFL.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. I've had the 2. I haven't had an injury like this in my life. So I've had a soft tissue where you miss a couple of weeks and you start running again, or I had my shoulder or whatever. And nothing like this where you've had to have a second surgery, and then you just kind of don't really trust it. And it's amazing the sort of that mental game you play with yourself.
So how long, what was your running schedule? Because I'm assuming it wasn't going to be much to start.
Yeah, so it wasn't much at all. I just did 1000s out in the ground just to sort of get the feel for how I'm going. I've done 3 sessions on the Alter G, which is this machine that some people might be aware of. It's a gravity machine that it takes off, not even a gravity machine. It's just, you run it, you can run at any percentage of your body weight. So you can run at 10%, 50%, 80% of your body weight. It sort of blows up. You wear these special pants, zip yourself in, it blows you up with air. And you sort of, it takes the weight bearing off your bone. So some guys do that in their rehab progress before they run out in the ground. And I did that for 3 sessions. And today was now my 4th sort of running session back, which was the first one on the deck. So felt good.
Yeah. Just a bit nervous. Were you relieved?
Relieved. Yeah. But you play a mental game with yourself. You sort of the first 100, you go, shit, I'm stiff, I'm sore, I'm this, I'm that. But then, all of a sudden, you kind of let your body go and you relax. And I'm not coming off a 9-month ACL or anything like that, but it's just more, I haven't really felt that before. I haven't had this feeling of 3 months of nothing, no running at all, and then having to trust your body again, and especially your ankle about running. So it was just different for me. As I said, I know it wasn't a massive injury or anything like that. It's just it was a different circumstance for me that I had to go through, and got through it.
That's good, mate. That's good to hear. Fitness levels?
They're probably not great, mate, to be honest.
3 months?
Do I look fat? I don't look fat, though.
You're looking all right.
I look all right.
Looking lean and mean.
Yeah, lean, yeah. I might look lean, but I certainly don't feel... My respiratory rate, I think, would be quite high.
I refuse to tell people what you're wearing because we say it every week, but everyone can guess at home. You're looking lean and mean in your kit.
Yes,
the
thank
head to
you.
toe kit.
Yep. Yeah, got different shoes today. Yeah, the Paris, the City Pack.
Who would have
M&S.
thought? New shoes for Dave.
Yep.
I got new shoes on too.
Mate,
I'm
they're
gonna
the
talk about
Paris
those,
City
though.
Pack. They're great.
Yeah, I'm sure they're great.
Yeah, not bad. But no, mate, it's hot outside. It's 35.
real hot.
You should be in shorts and
I
t-shirt
know,
too.
I got jeans on, but I got short sleeves. We're all good.
Short sleeves.
I'm loving it.
Well done.
Well, let's get straight into this because I know Winnie and Scottie are outside waiting for us. So
Yep.
let's get straight into their chat. Really looking forward to it.
Let's do it.
Boys, thank you so much for joining us. God, that's
Yeah, you sound really, really good.
Again.
No, why don't we just continue?
I'll
with
just
it?
continue it. Apologies for my voice. I've copped a shocker this weekend. Thanks for coming
Too
in.
many colonials, mate.
I know. Yes.
Good plug early.
So,
Well done.
so let's start with
Commercial,
this.
Zach, from the start.
Have you guys molded this? Because he's a monster. We need to pull him back. We need to rein him back. Every day he's head to toe in bloody Adidas. Now we've got, I want to thank Colonial as well,
Yeah,
but he's dropping names left and right.
I've learned from the best.
I was going to say, are we thanking you guys for what we've created here next to us?
No, we assist, but I think he drives it. He gets it. In this day
Commercial
of-
beast.
What did you plug back in the day when you were playing?
No, very different then. Not the platforms either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
You know,
true.
like now, if you get a following through social media and that, you've got an immediate platform.
Did you stand on any street corners?
No.
Any ads? Any good ads back in the day?
No.
Nothing. Oh, we
Wore
should've-
Adidas.
yeah, there you
They
go.
were good.
They've improved and
Plug
kept
in
getting
there.
better.
That's right. But now we have to be, we're very vanilla and neutral because we support all the brands because our players wear various different brands.
Of course.
I don't want to list them all now,
No, we won't listen.
And their athletes don't like handball us. They're Adidas gear at all. Like
No,
it's-
not getting any
There's no
hand-me-downs.
like Christmas presents. I mean, I'm like, either. So
yeah, they charge too much. That's why.
Don't deserve it. Is that what you're trying to say? Get enough out of it.
All right, so guys, this time of year, November, busy time of year. You've just come off trade period. You got draft coming up. What's it like for you in November?
Look, it's a busy time of year. It just keeps going now. So it's a longer year. The AFL are very keen for football to stay in the news and really drive it all the way through to the draft. So therefore, there's a few different, without getting into the details and boring everyone, a few different list management dates. So players now can get cut or are waiting or training with the club without a home right up into the draft. So previously, after trade period, it could really quieten down for 3 or 4 weeks. But now with live trading, the uncertainty around that, it's kept the footy in the news, but it's all kept clubs working more broadly because instead of having picks 5, 25, 45, that can change on the night. So they need to be really closely across more players. So, and that means for us, the uncertainty around our players is that bit greater. So you're just going back, providing information all the way through. Trade period really, kicked off the postseason with players on the move. So a lot of support around that for your players and looking to get the deals done that best suit them and their opportunity. That's what we're really there to provide.
Have you got everyone locked away for the draft essentially, or are you still interviewing kids to get some more kids on board? Like, are you already then looking for next year's draft, or say are you still trying to sign kids for this year for the draft?
not trying to sign any more for this year's draft. There might be the odd one that comes up late that is a smoky that might get looked at, but it's looking at the next 12 months and probably even beyond that as well, the group that's coming through for 2021 and tracking that. You can't approach them or send a letter of intent until their October 1 of their under 16s year.
Yeah, okay,
and then from then it's the process that the parents put in place and the regional managers of the club about, right, they're interested in management, they want to have a conversation, or they want to hold off until their top age year.
So I remember, sorry, go off. So I was in year 11. I don't know if this still works anymore. So I was in year 11 footy, playing school footy and that. And I just remember the specific moment, previous manager who you worked under. I was just at the end of school day with all my schoolmates and look at my number on the phone, and I didn't have a clue what number it was. Picked up and I said, hello, David, this is Ricky Nixon here. I want to talk to you about like player management. And like for me as a year 11, I'd never heard I never had any contact with any other managers. It was just bang, phone call to my number. I don't even know how he got it, like whatever. But do you guys still do that, or is it more, you said letter of intent? Is there laws around, can you just contact players, or does it have to be a letter, or?
Yeah, I think there's more stringent rules around it now that just because I imagine that conversation was an awkward one for you.
100%.
Absolutely out of the blue.
Unexpected.
So they try and avoid that.
17-year-old
Yeah, they
kid,
try and avoid that now through a letter and going through the regional manager and then generally through the parents.
Yeah. Okay.
So then they generally have an idea around, worked in business or dealt with this sort of thing in a different forum.
Yeah.
So they're well in the loop on what to say, how to approach it. They might look to wait till further down the track, or they might be keen to catch up for a chat just to learn a bit more about the industry and what that might mean for their son or daughter now.
So do you look at it the same way as a club would look at it with recruiters? Are you following the recruiters around and going, standing next to them? Is that kind of how it works now, and at what age?
Yeah, look, it is in a sense. Most managers watch a fair bit of football, so through their own eye, and a lot have done it for quite a while, have an idea of who the best players are. It's almost two-tiered where there's performance of players, but also a futures market. Where can a player get to? So a classic case might be a tall, skinny kid that doesn't do a lot at under 16, 17, 18 level, but they can see when he gets a body, develops, where he could get to. And then there's those that are just guns, such as a Sam Walsh or a Matt Rowell this year, that'll be great AFL players, but are also great underage players. And you can pick that up reasonably easily. Yeah, most people could go and watch and tell you the best 4 or 5 players. So, but we do work with recruiters a lot just to, I guess, confirm what we're thinking around the opportunity, because just because we like a player doesn't mean necessarily that AFL clubs do. So therefore, we don't pick the players on draft night. Clubs do that. Yep. So we need to work with them.
So how often does it happen where you've got someone lined up and then nothing, it just goes away? That player doesn't get through, or
probably have 1 or 2 every year that you've selected either 12, 18 months and you pursued and worked through, and for whatever reason it just doesn't unfold from in their top age year. Yep. And it happens once or twice a year, and that's the most important role then for the manager to come in, because it's great when they get picked and you're organising the contract and the finances, but for the guys who don't get picked and the dream's still alive, you want to be able to work with them to get them to a 19-year-old or a VFL club or a Samford Waffle club, because they don't know what they're doing. They probably don't know why they've missed out. Yep. That feedback becomes really important, and that's role. And we've had a lot more success with those guys, getting them picked up as a 19-year-old or a 21-year-old, Luke Ryans and Tom Langdons and these sorts of players who it didn't work out from when they're 18 when they'd signed with us, and then we'd followed through and worked. Well, what's next, because the dream's still alive.
So is it a numbers game for you guys then? Like, do you, or is it real honed in and you pick your talent, you got a small pool?
Well, initially you do hone in. You have an idea who the top 10 or 12 are, so you put a fair bit of time into that. And then if they may choose to go with you or with another manager. So therefore, as that occurs, you start to broaden what you're looking at, which can lead to, in a sense, there is an element of speculating on our behalf, where you do look at a player and you think if he continues at that rate of improvement, he'll get there. But as Winston said, for some whatever reason, it could be some injury, just general form, or he doesn't develop because he just doesn't. It might be attitude or character. There's lots of different reasons why a player, can flatline in a sense in terms of his development. And clubs can have players really high on their board at the start of the year, and as the year goes, they drift, and then others just keep emerging because they perhaps defy the initial thoughts of recruiters and really come on at a rapid rate.
Talk to me, Winston, about why player management for you? Like, how'd you start out? Why'd you pick it? And then what was a big challenge for you? Obviously, Scottie's come in, played AFL footy. Kids growing up probably know him. What was a challenge for you trying to establish yourself within the industry?
Well, I think I went down the sports management path because I loved football first and foremost, and to stay involved with footy wasn't good enough. Was a long way from being good enough to play at any sort of good level. So it was just born out of that interest. It was. I did a business degree, and it was about 2008 when I graduated. And at the stage, I had an interest in the sports management side, but knew how difficult it was to get into.
Yep.
So I, at the same stage I graduated, the global financial crisis hit, and there wasn't a lot of work going around for grad roles and simple sort of stuff. So I then moved into, I was just doing a lot of hospitality retail after uni, and it was about 3 or 4 months after I graduated, and on the front page of the paper was famous player agent at the time had crashed his car into a tram, drink driving, and it said he was a Kew resident. I was living down the street, and thought it'd be a great opportunity to get involved.
Advertising for you, was it?
Yeah, well, I thought, all right, there's an opportunity. He's going to lose his license. I'll put my hand up and say, write him a letter and an email, and called and said, I'll drive you around for 12 months in exchange for work experience.
Wow.
And he relented after months and months, and finally got involved there. Started with 1 day a week, and then it sort of eventuated into 2, 3, built relationships with some players, and took all the smaller things that he didn't want to do anymore and took them on board, and became pretty valuable. And it sort of built from there. And it's a very low base to start with, but that's what it takes to get into this line of work.
Talk us through that first meeting, because we're talking about Ricky Nixon here. We're talking about that.
Yeah, a little bit.
But let's talk about that first meeting. So you've sent him a letter. You've seen this in the paper. You sent him a letter. What happens when you actually get to meet him the first time?
A long time ago now, but it was very, very brief. It was just I thought I was going in for an interview, but I think through the other people in the office, they said, you've just got to do it, because he's the only one who's come up with the idea. So it was 5 minutes, and it was like, righto, you start Wednesday, come pick me up at 7 a.m. and we're away. And for him, I think it was a really productive time, because as an agent, you spend so much time in the car and you're not supposed to be on your phone or making calls, whereas he could just go really hard all the time when I was just driving him around, and just being able to learn everything from him, and not everything, but the things that a lot of the good stuff he was saying, because I got great access. You know, I got really good access for the fact that I think when you take an intern on or someone like that, you know, you keep them at arm's length a bit because of confidentiality of players. But because I was always there, I was able to get such good access. So it was a quick 5 minute sort of chat where it was like start Wednesday and away we go. And it was an experience.
What about you, Scottie? A couple of years on from that, you played quite a few years in footy. Come out of footy, you had another job, did you? Before you came to management?
So look, my pathway was more around, you know, I got to the middle of my career and I thought, well, I was keen to stay involved in the game in some shape or form, and I felt, and nothing's really changed, the coaching side really intrigued me. It was of great interest, but year on year, a lot of them got the sack. And quite often, guys that you thought were doing a good job or could really coach were getting the sack. So I thought this, with a young family, job security might not be high on the list of coaches. So the admin side was naturally the other side that I looked at. I did some study in that area, and then worked at the AFL for 12 months as an intern, worked at the PA for about 8 or 9 months. Then this opportunity came up in sports management, or player management specifically. And I thought, well, and I still believe it really is quite similar to coaching. You're working with your athletes in a slightly different way, but in order for them to be the best footballer that they can be, and also support them off field, which I think really that support off field has become more prevalent from a club perspective. So you really tie in with clubs now. It's just a different look at it, and I really value and enjoy that part of the job.
Do you find that based on, like, you know, your player management here, and probably when you were starting out, Winston, I can imagine it wasn't there wasn't a lot of people in the game, but it seems like now there's heaps of emphasis on this. Have you found that evolution has happened? Or is it just from the outside looking in?
Seems there's a lot more independent little,
a lot more people involved. You hear about.
I think it gets just a lot more media attention than it ever did. I think if you look at the early 2000s, there was only 3 or 4 main companies in it, and then by the time I started, there might have been 50 accredited agents across the country, but still it was controlled by 8 to 10, and another 10 years later, you hear a lot more of the names because there's trade radio. They're quoted in the paper a lot, and that's where it sort of launched. But there's maybe 90 accredited agents across the country now. But of that, probably 20 of the agents control 90% of the market. There's still a lot of small lawyers, accountants, and those types with 1, 2, or no athletes that get into it because they hear and they think it's the way forward. And the reality is recruiting clients. It's really difficult if you're just part-time. There's so many full-time agents in it who do a really good job. So you're competing, against them. So a lot of the part-timers sort of start with, it's a good idea to get into it and as a side to their business. And then after 2 or 3 years, they sort of let it slide. But definitely the competition is grown as an industry in the last 10 years.
So on that, do you think that then, because if you look at the US market, which we seem to always want to do with AFL, is compare it to the US, do you think that you look at that often to see what they're doing and how the player agents are such a big player in these guys' endorsements and deals, and then comparing that to when you started, has that just increased to in a similar vein? Are we trying to head towards that direction?
We always keep an eye. We do. As a game, we look to follow the NFL, I think, in particular. The agents, I think, control a lot more of basketball. If you look at it with Rich Paul and how he was able to manipulate that, it's a little bit different because, to me, the NBA, there's 5 on the floor. If you've got 2 guns, you can win the championship. If you've got 3, you won't lose. Where it's very difficult to manipulate, not only with the rules of AFL, but the contribution that any one player can make. I mean, I heard an interview yesterday from Nathan Buckley, and he was talking about Brodie Grundy, who is a star, but he was still, as in coach speak, talking about no one player is bigger than the team, and no player is not of enormous value, even if it's the 22nd pick. They rate them so evenly, whereas the NBA is a bit different. So if you can move 1 or 2 players, you can turn a team from not making the playoffs to winning the championship, which is a little bit different in the AFL because there's 36 on the field at one time, and that contribution, I think, is more evenly spread. But you do have an important role in trying to help and support your players to create opportunities. So where that does tie in with American sport is, I think, that trade period, etc. But we're a little bit different. The big differences are we don't disclose the player's income, which I'm a big supporter in. I think, and for me, that just ties in with the mental health conversation. I just see it, and we're going slightly off track here, but it'll all tie back in. But I mean, I can see an article on a Monday, if we were to disclose salaries of what player played to his dollar, who played above their dollar, and then what would be of greater emphasis is those that played below the dollar, which I just don't think helps anyone is necessary. I mean, except for a few senior executives of publicly listed companies, the greater public is not aware of what everyone earns, and I don't think we need to know. So I'm not I don't think that helps the game in any shape or form. We don't trade players. In an NBA, the next day can go elsewhere. So I think it's certainly more transient, and the rules of player movement are a lot more free. And I think that has primarily a lot to do with the amount of money a player earns. If you're on 20 million or 40, if you've got a max contract in the NBA, to get up and move to another town is fine. Generally overnight in terms of he just buys a new crib, doesn't he? But if you think about how it works, well, without generalising, but I would say very few wives and partners of NBA players work. So therefore, we're looking at most AFL players' partners work. So therefore, and that's why the mid-year draft is also a challenge as well. Kids in school, it's really difficult to do that. So there are some similarities, but we need to always acknowledge the differences in our game. I mean, player loyalty, I think, in AFL is still at a very, very high level. Most players prefer and would wish to be a one-club player. Now, it doesn't always work out for a host of reasons, whereas I would say in the NBA...
It doesn't exist over there,
I don't think it means anything to a player. They look at where the best... If you look at why Durant and Kyrie went to Brooklyn and all of that, it just... I mean, he left the Golden State. Greatest team of all time. Just a completely different mind. And they all appear to want to be the number one. Whereas team is still... I think the number one consideration in the AFL, and the conversation you have with players, it's still, for me as a one-club player, it's something I was fortunate enough. I do realise you need some luck because clubs do want to move players on, but that's something that I really feel strongly about, and I think a lot of the players still feel that way, I think, which is great.
Do you think that both of you guys can answer this, Dave, as well, that it's the internal in the club that's helped build that? Because in the NBA, like they've built around with like you said, with the salaries and with the player managers controlling a lot of things. They've built it so that those things can happen, and then they usually, if they can happen, they usually will. Whereas we've kind of built it in AFL so it doesn't happen. Do you feel that it's because everyone's sort of internally team orientated from the beginning?
I feel it's transitioning away from that though. So yeah, I feel like that's been the culture of AFL footy for 100 years. Having that club and you've had limitations too. There's been a trade period at the end of the season, but now with free agency opening up with mid-season draft, I feel like it is progressing towards the other way. So I still feel like loyalty is in footy. Massively, and I had that decision a couple of years ago where I was out of contract at the end of 2017 and I chose to stay at the footy club that I love and like Scottie was talking about. But I reckon it is transitioning away from that and have more player freedom. You guys can speak more on that. Yeah. But I feel like as a player that the AFL wants to have that because it creates footy headlines throughout the whole year.
Head office are going, their legs are paddling as hard as they can because they want it to completely change.
Exactly.
But it's the clubs that are just, I think their feet are going more slowly and they appreciate what it could get to, but they're far more reserved.
Yes.
So, for example, the AFL would have liked a pre-season draft next year. Bang, let's get it in and work it, figure it out later. Whereas clubs will provide more like, well, we're not opposed to it, but let's talk about it and look at how it could work and how it might not work. So
even mid-season trade and stuff is it too.
Yeah, like do your trade. That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, the big thing is AFL want to bring it in, but if you're West Coast and Freo for a mid-year trade, they've probably only got each other as trading partners.
Yeah,
It'd be really hard for a Victorian player, to my earlier point around family schools and that, to uproot middle of the year.
Yep.
So therefore, you can imagine all the interstate clubs, when they talked about mid-year trade, would have been pushing really hard against it.
Yep.
And you're finding that at the moment there's a lot of players who are saying they want to leave, they're not getting through, and then you get all this talk about, well, they're probably going to go the end of next year or something anyway. So there's all this talk. That stuff used to not exist at all. Is that affecting you guys heavily as well now?
I'll keep going.
Handball.
Handball that one.
That's a handball. Yeah, look, players, they're always considering, and family circumstances can change. We work, and as through the trade period, a club said to us, I mean, because it can get willing at times, but it was a really good point. And I think we all can get caught up in it. But he said, well, we understand you guys don't work for a club. You work for the player.
Exactly.
So our job is to do what is best for the player. Now, sometimes what the player wants to do might not be best for him in our opinion, and we'll let him know and chat through it all. What we want to do basically is have our players always make an informed decision, and then support them as best we can.
There's the value of the contract is there. So a couple of years ago, there was a lot of talk about players. They seem to get wherever they want to go, whenever they want, in contract, out of contract. But what was relatively unknown was there was a lot of conversations being had that never got aired, where club had gone to a player, we want to trade you in contract to another club because we want something back that club have got. But the conversation goes from the player to the manager and they go, well, no, I'll back myself in. And that's where it starts and stops. So there was a lot of the conversations that never got anywhere from that point of view, where the player said, no, I don't want to go. And vice versa, where the clubs have actually shut it down first and said, we will not be doing him under any circumstances. So whilst we look more recently and we think only a couple of guys have, Tim Kelly didn't get where he wanted to go, Tom Papley, there's been a few, that's been happening for a long time, just not everyone's aired all the time.
Right.
It doesn't always come out that way. So, and that's what you got to respect. You want the value of a contract from that security point of view, but you are signing up to be with that club for a period of time. So if the deal that needs to get the trade done has to be so much better for that club because they own the contract. So there's a lot of value in that, whereas I suppose compared to America, it's just a very different sort of system.
And a couple of coaches have raised that the possibility of trading players in contract at the club's discretion rather than the player.
Right.
Yeah.
That opens up a whole
Yeah, wow.
Another world there.
It probably
it does.
Goes back to the
to
cost
money
of the
to me,
living.
yeah.
Yep.
And you guys are not on the American wage,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
That's
We
what
would
we've
like
got
you to
a big
be.
wage, yeah.
We'd be more than happy.
Yeah,
for
if
you
you're
to
on a
be
big
that.
wage, you don't care. Like if you're on
No.
$5 million a year, it's like, well, okay, well, I
You
don't really
pack up
care.
your bags, yeah.
Wherever the opportunity is.
Yeah.
but
And it's cultural too.
Yeah,
It's very different. I mean, we talk about
Well, they go to
players.
college in America, so they're already traveling around the country at the start. We
Most
don't
have
do that.
relocated
Yeah.
already.
Yes.
And then if you look at, a lot of the big colleges, there's not an NBA team in that town. So they know if they're to achieve their dream, they're going somewhere different again.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, so it is quite transient to start with for,
Yes.
for the Americans. And even as players, I mean, that want to be the number one because there's only a number one on each team. If you become really good, you generally, he's got to move or you've got to move. So I
Yeah.
think they're always open to that.
Yeah. Well, the AFL you have 10 teams in Victoria, two, that kind of thing. Whereas America, you have one team, one city. So growing up as a kid, there's only 12 players on an NBA team. Small chance you're going to be in that city. You're going to move, or you play college somewhere else. So culturally, growing up, you know that. Whereas footy, I reckon, still Victorian kids will be like 10 teams. I want to be in Victoria still. I still reckon there's a chance for me to be that. So there is a bit of that too.
They never have to fully get their head around leaving home to
Yes.
play AFL
Yes,
because
exactly.
if they're a Victorian kid,
Yeah.
the odds are still stacked in their favour.
Yeah, exactly.
Academies and everything are in now as well.
Yeah.
So there's probably more of a chance of Victorian kids staying in Victoria because
Exactly.
Brisbane are pulling players out of their academy, Gold Coast, these sorts of clubs, Sydney and GWS. So you wipe out 4 clubs just there who are going to pick at least 1 to 2 academy kids every year.
Yeah, exactly. Now I want to get back to, so I remember back to meeting with Ricky and that, and I remember my parents, like Dad was, pretty forthright in asking questions about talking through a couple of managers and which one they want to choose. And
Johnny had a big say, didn't he?
Johnny had a big say, and Mum sort of crossed the line through a few managers at the start. Have you had any dealings with some parents, and what is your dealings? Obviously, some parents are more helicopter than others. Have you got any good stories without sharing any names of some dealings you've had when you interviewed?
We got another handball.
Yeah, look,
What have you got?
We've had some third person talkers at different stages where they talk about their son right next to them and said, X player could be doing this, X player could be doing that, but you're lucky to be in the room with X player. And it was like, well, okay, that was a bit different. And but then you probably get the ones who, and quite rightly, if you're going through, like it's your first business decision you've ever made.
Yeah.
You're 16, 17, 18. You're probably wide-eyed. So having your parents there just to measure everything, keep it consolidated and making informed decisions is important. Like ultimately, the player's got to drive it in the end because the relationship's the most important thing. So a player has to feel really comfortable. And you've had parents really heavily involved and set out a really strict process and table and matrix of how it all looks and who's got what and what happens if you go interstate and all these things. And you think, well, this is going to be interesting if we are successful, how we onboard all of that. And often you'll find that's it. That's where it starts and stops. And they just move their journey onto their kids. That they just say, righto, you've made that decision. And you might not hear from them that often, and sometimes you'll follow up with them. Other times, the conversation is ongoing as the player enters the AFL and continues because it's the first time in his life or her life they're not in the first 18.
Yep.
There's injury, there's pressure to perform, so they can go into a bit of a hole at different times. And you're speaking to the parents around, well, best way to manage that as a team you're working through. So the relationship can be ongoing from that point of view, but they're pretty good in general.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Johnny hit me pretty hard with a couple of, he still texts me every now and then.
I'm sure he does.
Keeps
Yeah.
me busy.
But to your point, it makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
most of the boys and girls that you meet, they're 17. So
Yes.
it's questionable what they'll base their decision on and
Yes.
how informed it is. So having the support of the parents,
Yeah.
I think, is really
Well,
important.
as a kid, you can just get sucked into someone coming in.
That's
and
right. So I
being
think,
all nice to you.
my view would be if I had a son in a similar position is, the couple that you meet, do a bit of homework before you start.
Yep.
And then it's like, well, any of these 3 we're comfortable with, so go your hardest.
Yeah.
After that, but you probably don't want to open it up to too many.
Yes.
And to your point, just get caught up in it.
Yes,
because
exactly.
it's really complex, but it's quite simple at the end of the day.
Yes.
When you think, like, once you got drafted, I imagine it's just about working hard,
Yeah.
listening to your coaches, no different than at local footy.
Yeah.
Bit more on the line in terms of talk around it and pressure associated with it. But at the end of the day, it's a simple game.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to listen to your old man anymore. Now, you spoke a little bit, Winston, about the pressures of coming in just once you get drafted. What do you find is the biggest pressure of an AFL kid? So for people that don't really know much about footy, like you come in and all of a sudden you're an 18-year-old kid. Yeah, you've got the pressure of maybe one, coming in, meeting new players, getting selected for your first game. You all of a sudden on a pretty good money for an 18, 19-year-old. You've got a lot of downtime. The gambling comes into it, mental illness comes into it, mental health comes into it because the pressures of the whole game. And that, what do you find is the biggest challenge that you have to help with your clients or your players, or just in general players coming into the system?
Probably just that educational side around their money, the expectations around their football and club, etc., and which leads to the broader mental health and having everything aligned. Because for some of these guys, they get drafted, it's their dream.
Yeah.
Can be over in 12 to 24 months. So working with them on what does life outside of football look like to keep that really balanced approach and to have something good, because a lot of stuff in football is your uncontrollables. You know, if I hurt myself, I can still go and work from home or, work from the office, whatever it is. My job doesn't get taken away from me. For athletes, you get injured and it gets taken away from you for a period of time. So it can be very compounding for guys around that stress. So having an exit from that, whether it's be university or work experience, like really trying to educate the guys, the young guys especially, on this doesn't last forever and making sure that they're working away at that because that mental health side is the number one thing that we're dealing with. That's the pressure of selection. It's the pressure of the coach doesn't talk to me. It's the pressure of this guy's going to take my spot or they're going to trade in another inside midfielder. Like it's huge. And probably going back a bit now when we talk about Scottie and I align with not making wages public, that's another thing that'll just compound it from a mental health point of view and another thing for us to deal with is the way spectators will watch the game will change as well. Yeah. Because they'll be judging you on the money that you're getting paid and they will yell out accordingly. And we just don't have that sort of system. We're a bit tall poppy in Australia. Yes. So if a player is on a lot of money and not performing, that is going to be the news for a long period of time.
It's already hard enough to play.
Happened with Daisy Thomas when he went to the Blues. Yeah, 30 bets. That was that switch, and that was a big chat, and that was kind of known of that conversation. Then he ended up taking a cut and all that sort of stuff.
I think Tom Boyd has stated publicly that he felt, and that there was a lot of media speculation, but it was just that it was speculation rather than the fact, and I think he felt pressure from that speculation as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you find that these days, I mean, we're on a podcast that Dave is co-hosting with me. Do you find that these days the opportunities are so vast that these players have?
Yeah, look, they are. In terms of for their own brand, that's the word that everyone uses. There's so many platforms now, isn't there?
You on TikTok?
No, not on TikTok.
Why not?
No.
You guys on TikTok?
Come on, Zaka.
No.
Come on, Zaka.
But to your point there, like how do you guys feel players can maximise their value without then looking like a peanut? Like, no, you know what I mean? Like there's obviously a difference in the AFL. We're players for
I think subtlety is the key.
Yeah.
If it's pure product placement, then I think that can wear thin.
Which I feel like you can get caught in the trap of when you're younger, which I definitely would have got caught in it. There's still a few players that still do it.
Can be a bit cheesy, can't it?
Yeah, like you look after your sponsors, but you don't want to just get. I remember getting sent a pot plant to me one time, and it was like, can you post it and put me up? And it's like, you back then when you're a younger kid, you do it, but it's like you look back 12 months and you go, what the hell am I doing? Like, so I think you look after your major sponsors, but then there's obviously surely a point where, and Winston, you can answer this, the point that players maximise their value, but you don't want to look stupid, do you?
Yeah, you got to really pick and choose what's important for you and what works with, like Scottie said, the brand longer term and the relationships you want to start there. But you want to have a choice. Everything becomes a choice at the point. You want sponsors to come to you because they like your podcast or they like your Instagram or what you're about.
Yep.
But
how
then
you can add value.
Yes. To them. Yeah.
And work it through from that. I want to get involved with that company or I don't, or I think this can lead to something or our values align and what I'd like to do. So there's a way you can control it more than ever now because players have got their platforms and what is quite a restricted market because the AFL with IP rights, etc., don't allow you guys to get involved with.
Yeah, it's very restrictive.
It's very restrictive about what you can do, what you can wear, what car you can be sponsored, what car company you can be sponsored by, depending on these things. So there's limited stuff you can do from a sponsorship point of view due to the AFL restrictions. So your ability to control your brand elsewhere becomes important.
Like to your point earlier, how you were saying it's growing. It is, but there's still very few players in the AFL that actually make a lot of money from it, isn't it? Like it's still very small pool. And your bottom, say you got 45 on the list, your bottom 36 wouldn't be making anything. Like
your footy's your
really
core.
your top 8 or 9. Yeah. That's still very much in the AFL, isn't it?
That's right. So your footy will drive. I mean, it's quite simple. The best players with good images will command that off-field, and some don't want to do much off-field, whereas there's those that do a great job that perhaps don't have the profile of others, but really give and invest in the company that they're working with, and therefore that relationship builds. But you're right, with 10 teams in a city of 5 million, it is 10 professional football teams.
Yes.
It's a lot of players. It's a little pond.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fish in a little pond, isn't there? Whereas you talk about earlier, like a one team, like New York has one NBA team,
40 million people.
2 NFL teams, a couple of ice hockey teams. Like there's about 7 professional teams, whereas we've got actually 10 AFL. We've got 2 or 3 A-League. Basketball's growing.
Yeah,
we can
rugby,
keep. You think how many? So the market is really diluted.
Yes.
So the opportunities aren't as great despite the profile of our players.
There's also an organic nature that has to be there, because I think that now that a social has grown to a point of everyone kind of gets now that you're going to be selling stuff on that. But if you're doing it and it looks fake or it looks like cheesy, like you said before, it's not organic anymore, and people it stands out like a sore thumb, and people pick up on it pretty quick. Do you think that there needs to be some sort of, I don't know, training is the right word, but guidance from that, and do you help with that stuff?
Yeah, and it's a really good question and an interesting one, because a lot of the players that you speak to about what you can do aren't that interested. In that sort of thing.
Yes, they are. Yeah,
they just don't care. If you said, okay, well, we can do a little bit, we can develop your social media brand and what you post and develop some key themes, because there might be a randomness to what they do. Some of them go, I'm just happy to do what I'm doing. I don't want to be thinking about
if
it.
Something comes my way.
If something comes my way, but
present a full plan and a strategy around. Well, this is what it takes to get involved with the high level sponsors, and they look, I'm not sure I really want to use it. I just want to post photos of my dog and playing golf.
Well, it's fun.
And they might be the same players that go, because you're part of a team. I don't want to look like a knob as well. I don't want my team, because teammates start to pet. Like we've had a couple of guys do a couple of posts this year, and immediately their teammates are all
I've seen a few
cashed
of
in.
those.
Yeah, that's right. So they become a little bit gun shy after that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, speaking of that, I remember players don't want to do it. We had the Telstra, the AFL got the Telstra deal, and unless you're 2 or 3 your main players who are sponsored by them and get paid for it, it goes into your annuity fund, which is your retirement fund. So you don't necessarily see it.
Right.
So you're actually getting money, but you don't, because it's not given to you in paper value or form, you don't see it. So we had one of the boys or a couple of the boys rock up when Telstra came out to the footy club, and they're like, oh, boys, we need you to post more. We need you to post more.
Yeah.
And we do this and all that kind of thing. We had to do group activity. And 2 of the boys just left. They're like, I'm not interested in this at all. Like, I'm not doing this. Like, I don't want to be involved in social. I don't even have Instagram. I don't want to be posting stuff for Telstra, all this stuff. And they left, but they're actually getting paid. And the real thing is that they don't see that because it's not in their paper value.
Right.
So you're still getting like good value for, you have to do minimal to get money. But
it's a tweet or a two.
Yeah,
so
players still don't want to be involved.
So the media is a big part of that. Like players don't, which I think we all ex-players can be accused of at different times, but the broadcast rights drive this game.
Yeah.
So really, that's why a player is able to get paid.
You've got to give more to get more.
That's right. So based on that, accessibility to players, which is always an issue, is still the case. Yet players, you're right, don't quite see the bigger picture about if they contribute to something. in giving greater access to themselves or the game, then that can help grow the pie, interest in it, membership, attendance.
You might not see the
broadcast
money
rights.
directly
No,
now,
you don't.
but
it's
you're getting
a big, and it might have been. And there's always a lag. So it could be what the players do extremely well today sets up the players for the next 10 years.
Right.
Because there's always a lag effect on growth.
Where do you see that going? Because for me, and I know a lot of players wouldn't like this, but I think if we are willing to give up more, we can get more money. So I love the NBA model, how they come into the change rooms after games and it's like your immediate press conference and that. But if you're getting compensated for that, I've got no problem with it. Where do you see that going in the future?
That's been the talk, hasn't it, for quite a while now around, an open change room, free access if a media person.
And even content during the day at training, everyday access to
That's
your
right.
training
I mean,
day,
there's still closed training sessions, isn't there, from clubs?
Yeah.
So there is, I
comparison.
think that's the issue. Like clubs, coaches, I get it, but they're also restrictive in what they provide. Some players are great. But then when they do, like we saw this year, I think Luke Hodge was interviewed on the boundary line and there was a lot of criticism for that.
Yeah.
So
because we're not used to it.
No, that's right. Yeah. Now, for me, if he's comfortable doing it, it's not going to distract for his performance. I'd sometimes question, there's not a lot a player can say, so it doesn't personally interest me that much because they're not able to say a lot. But if that's what the fans more broadly want, then great, get on board.
Yeah.
But after the criticism, so the media want more access, but then they criticise the player.
Exactly, yeah.
So what do the rest of the playing group? What would the rest of the playing? The rest of the playing group have thought throughout that week where Luke Hodge was criticised?
Yeah.
Well, I'm never doing that if I'm going to get asked.
Yeah.
But if they didn't criticise, it wouldn't be known. Like they would just slide under the radar.
Exactly.
And I think there is, if we were to wait, and I think we can be really negative society more broadly, that I reckon we're running a too high a portion of negative to positive on play. So therefore, I get why they're also reluctant to give.
Yes.
Because soon as it goes badly, they're actively criticised. Because I think by and large, 99% of players are great role models and do a lot of good in the community. That doesn't get reported. Of course, there's some incidents with players.
Yeah.
They make mistakes. We all do.
Yeah.
But the amount of attention that's given to that is certainly disproportionate.
But it's not even on that too. It'll be how bad your performance was on the weekend if you get more access. It's a great juxtaposition. I find that. So early on in my career, I found no access, get away. Like we don't want to do this. And then you come to appreciate that. Yeah, you can get the bigger pictures. You can get more money. But even for stuff for us now that I'm moving to say media and podcasting. I love American TV or American sport, and they have access, so after games, after training sessions, during the week, all that. And radio shows and TV shows on ESPN, Fox, all that, they have content every single day because some players spoken on Tom Brady spoken on Tuesday, Patrick Mahomes has spoken on a Wednesday, LeBron's spoken on a Wednesday, and they have access every single day to content. Yeah. Whereas in the AFL, it's really only Saturday, Sunday, maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, pretty... Like there's not much content, and then Friday's picking back up.
And in a sense, clubs are now competing with the media
for
the content.
Yes,
so they want to own the content and develop their own media channels. So they're competing with the broader media. So they want to hold things back, which I get as well.
Yeah. So if you open it up, I don't know, it opens up massively
the coaches in America are more accepting. Like culturally too, they're just more into it. It's been there for a longer time. So therefore,
except Bill.
Except Bill. But I think the owners. I think the owners are smart though. The owners go attention. Well, that's where the value lies. So the more attention we're giving to it, and the more openness we are, and I think that's where it all lives.
Because they want their money, mate.
They're all owners. The owners are smart though.
And from a coaches in Australia, they're dealing with the 18-year-olds, whereas in America, it's the 22 plus. They've had media training. They're stars without getting the pay, so they've been sort of worked up into that position, and that's a big difference here, because I think the fear is, what's an 18, 19, 20-year-old going to say under pressure? 100%. In front of the camera? Yeah. Could he drop an F-bomb? Could he say something wrong? Could he give away the game plan?
Yeah.
Or does he just feel uncomfortable? Yeah. That's right. Unwanted stress for the sake of it.
Yeah.
And then you look at the UFC, for instance, and how they've built their model of the complete opposite, where it's
You have
let
to
everyone
sell.
do whatever they want, let anyone say whatever they want. In fact, let them drop F-bombs at the press conference.
Because that will drive attention.
Yeah.
And that's what they need,
Flip it on
don't
its
they?
head. Yeah, exactly. But
You're not a mainstream sport yet. Like it's coming that way. So you need that attention.
Yes.
That's how I find. Yeah.
Well, that's it. Yeah. And I think that the big thing from mine is that like those that you were talking about the 3 days a week, or it's, it's only a couple of days a week there. And that's, I think, why the negative stuff comes up, because it's going to get more clicks. It's going to get more, and then there's not much else to write on. So we're going to talk about Hodgie, getting interviewed on the field, because there's not much else going on. Let's hit it hard. We'll write something about it, and then maybe some people will jump on board. Whereas if you've got more access, you don't have the need to write negative stuff about that, because you don't have to draw at strings for stuff.
Yeah, there's articles now on social media reactions to incidents, from Joe Average, but then also from other personalities, and then there's the confirmation of other stories from those personalities. So it's there's a couple of different facets that are driving it all now.
It's amazing where it's going. Yeah.
And where it'll be in
the
5 or
reaction.
10 years. I mean,
It's like how we were saying, if was it Joe Rogan, people were watching him watch the sport. It's like the reaction to you writing an article about a reaction. Yeah.
Well, they're smarter. Back to like Joe Rogan and the UFC, they now put a camera on their commentators, and there's like huge views on the reactions to like a knockout, but you don't see the knockout. You're seeing their reaction to the knockout. And I mean, I don't know. I watch it and I want to see what he does when they get hit in the face. Like, I don't
the
know.
AFL coach's reaction to an incident, isn't it?
Yeah,
they always pan back.
Yeah. So speaking of the game, where do you, this time of the year, AFL are always deliberating. Hang on.
Get there.
Yeah.
You're right.
Talking about rules next year.
Deliberating on rule changes.
On rule changes and all that. And they, last year, it seemed to be making a lot of rule changes, or they did bring in a lot of rule changes, which then brought down scoring in the game. Where do you see the game at as a player manager, and do you think any rules need to be brought in?
Well, I don't think they're looking to do much next year, are they?
No.
There's been no talk of it. And usually they condition the public where they start to discuss it and, take the temperature of what the average person thinks.
Throw some things at the pre-season competition and group them about this time of year.
Exactly.
Yeah. I get where they were coming from with the rule changes.
Yep.
We'd like scoring to go up, no doubt.
Do we though want scoring to go up?
So
do we want scoring to go up, or do we just want tighter games that are more exciting?
The AFL would like both, but I think you can't have both.
Okay. They want
if scoring goes
130,
which you don't generally get. If someone's getting the 150, it's a blowout. Yeah, because clubs are so good now defensively. I mean, when I started, there wasn't a great emphasis placed on stopping the opposition. It was a little bit like if they kick 20, how do we kick 23?
Right. Yeah.
Now, and I think systems make it easier to defend. My view is that it is easier to stop a goal than kick one, because I think that the kicking requires a lot to go right, and it requires flair, creativity, decision making, everything. Whereas generally you can coach if you all in its simplest form without diminishing the role of the defenders, because it's a tough job. But if you all drop back, it makes it harder to score.
Yep.
So if everyone runs back, whereas creating space and all of that can be a lot harder when there's an opposition trying to stop you. So therefore I think teams naturally learned how to defend better, which made scoring hard. So it's just there's a great lag, and it's gone on longer than just a lag in that sense. I find it's funny though. I do find beauty in most games of football because I love it. So I'm rusted on. Whereas I can see that those that can give or take or like it and flip and flop will want to see scoring and highlights. I get that. So that's the game's challenge. The AFL's intentions absolutely were spot on. They wanted to create or lessen congestion, allow the skill of the players to really shine. And I'm sure they'll keep tweaking it. But what we have is 18 very intelligent coaches that find a way around it.
Yeah, they adapt and evolve to what suits and to make it more defensive. And, usually there's a lag of 3-6 weeks before coaches have worked out something to be able to manipulate it into a defensive
coaches
game.
adjust.
So the obvious one
they don't want to
was
lose.
sometimes clubs thought, the +1 behind the ball allowed a club when they got it at half back to then slingshot with the extra and the overlap to score.
Yep.
Then they thought, well, does that make it hard? When there's even numbers, you don't have a spare in your back line to work it out, so you can get held up there.
Yeah, right.
So, there's always a contrary view.
I'd like them to put in play on if it's a backwards kick in defensive 50.
They had that in their VFL,
Did
didn't
they?
they? I think a couple of years
I don't
ago.
know. I just
not
liked
the
it.
defensive half. They had that
Defensive half.
Didn't they had that in the VFL a couple of years ago? I think.
I think they also trialled it, NAB Cup.
Like a NAB Cup thing, like a pre-season
as well.
cup.
They have looked at
Yeah,
it.
just put a bunch of pressure on those defenders again, even more.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna introduce a quiz.
Yeah, we've got a new
because we got a
a new quiz. We've got a new
we haven't got long to go.
We've got a new
so-
sponsor.
I haven't
heard.
Give them a
Yeah,
plug.
have you heard? Yeah, Colonial. Nah, Scotty's heard. We
Colonial.
plugged it this
Yeah.
start.
We
Yeah.
plugged it at the start. Yes.
So I'm gonna crack
Colonial,
It. I'm gonna kick it off with a quiz.
Okay, so this is a
Questions are gonna
colonial
be
quiz, and I don't know anything
colonial
about
quiz.
this.
It's a colonial quiz. Yes. You don't know anything about it.
No.
I just need to check one answer just quickly. Can you?
I won't
is
read it, I won't read it.
the top question the right answer?
It's your quiz and you don't even know the answers to it.
I know. How am I going to know the answers? It's spelled wrong, but correct. Is that what we said?
That's Google. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Good to know. All right.
Okay. So the way this quiz is going to work is I've got 3 questions about Scottie and Winston. All right. They're multiple choice for you because you might not know anything.
Are they brought to you by Colonial Brewing Co?
They're brought to you by
I thought
Colonial.
so.
Yeah. Brought to you by Colonial. So 3 questions each. There's a bonus question in them. So it's out of 4. And if you get it wrong, I do have a tiebreaker.
Okay, great.
So because it could be 4.
Okay. And
All right.
what do I win?
No, you don't win anything.
Well, who am I?
You're playing for one of these 2 to win a slab of Colonial.
Oh, okay.
So whoever you get more questions right wins a slab of Colonial.
Oh,
And we
well, I'm
have
just
a bit
going to
of-
honestly try to answer the questions. I'm not going to pick it who I want. I'm not going to answer one wrong.
No, well,
Oh, do I?
who do you like out of the 2?
It's a very complex quiz,
This is
David.
a complex quiz.
Yeah.
I'm very
Well, I didn't
confused.
want to answer you. I wanted to test Daniel about you 2. So I thought,
Okay.
well, that's the way to go.
That's-
And then the winner
Scotty's
gets a
got
slab.
Pretty big Wikipedia page, so I think
Yeah.
that's a bit easier.
It'll test you how much research you've done.
I've done absolutely nothing, so
Well,
this will be a
there you
fantastic
go.
quiz.
All right. And we can have a bit of banter in between.
All right.
Winston's a very well-travelled man, I want to say. Did you know
Yes,
that?
the answer is yes.
Did you know that?
No.
That's not a question.
No.
It's a
Okay.
very well-travelled man.
Okay.
Where
Is it a segue into a question?
Where in the world is his wife from? A, Colombia. B, Argentina. C, Brazil.
I met your wife at your house, actually.
Yeah, at my housewarming. Yep.
But I don't think we discussed. I do remember an accent.
He hasn't actually. He's kept the geography very close
Yeah, I know,
together. He
right?
hasn't given you much.
Sorry. There was
why.
Colombia, Argentina.
Or Brazil. Do you remember the accent? You don't.
Maybe think about
mate.
one that you could be spelt wrong because that might give it away.
Is it actually?
Good clue.
Google auto corrected that too, by the way. I had O.
So you've just given away the answer.
Yeah, he should be able to work it out now.
Colombia.
Yeah. There's
Thank
no
you,
O.
David.
If you think there's an O in Brazil, you're in trouble.
Columbia pictures, mate. That's what it would have been.
Colombia. Yeah,
that's what it about.
Don't worry, mate.
Argentina.
I only just learned that a couple of
that's
years
good-
ago.
yeah, Google
No,
autocorrect. There
I
you
got
go.
it wrong for a long time.
Well, there you go. All right.
Ding,
Question
ding.
1. Yeah. Can you add in a sound?
We'll add in a ding,
sound
ding.
effect?
Yeah.
All right. What year did Winston start player management? A, 2007. B, 2009. C, 2011.
Okay, Ricky Nixon. When did
He spoke about it before. He gave away a clue earlier.
Yeah.
What year he graduated. He gave it away.
Did he? Well, I wasn't listening hard enough.
Clearly, you weren't listening.
Well, I don't remember the year. All right. So sorry, 2007, 2000 and what are the options?
Do you want me to give you a clue?
Just give me the options.
Do you want me to
again.
give you a clue?
Nah. Yeah, all right. Give me a clue.
The year Scottie retired from footy.
Okay. Give me a clue. Give me them again.
That was of great help.
Well, it can't be too much of a clue. 2007,
No, exactly.
9 or 11.
Okay, so I'm going to. Okay, yeah, you did say 2009.
Bang. Spot on.
Yeah.
Spot on.
Do you want me to talk? Do you want me to talk through my reasonings?
Bonus question. What was the name of the company?
I was going to say Upstart. It's not. What was it?
Half there.
Rise. Something
5,
start.
4.
Rising
3,
Start. No, I
2,
don't know. I can't
Flying
remember.
Start.
Flying Start. I knew there's something. Start or
I'm
something.
going to miss out on my slab here.
You are, yeah.
So
Well, two.
what are we?
Yeah,
Two in.
2. And then now the last question. What was his first car that he ever drove?
All right.
The answer is A, 1989 Toyota Corolla, a 1990 Holden Commodore, or a 1992 Ford Laser.
I got a question within this question.
Yep.
Did you drive Ricky Nixon around in this car?
Correct. And much like Zaka, I might have had some personalised number plates for a little bit.
In that case,
Do you remember that? Hang on. Do you remember that? Me rocking up the train in my personalised number plates? in my first year.
Did you have a black Falcon?
Nah.
What'd you have?
Silver Falcon.
What were the plates?
Zaka.
Zaka.
Yeah. My sisters bought it for me for my 18th
I had the
birthday.
19th birthday.
Did ya?
Yeah, present. I was like, yeah, okay.
What were yours?
It's got
Brilliant.
Winnie.
it's got to be
both had it. There
it's
you
got
go.
to be
That's
the
why we
Holden.
get along so
It's
well,
got to be
mate.
the Holden.
No.
The laser.
Ford laser.
Damn it, that was my first guess, but the number plates.
No AC, mate. Me and Ricky
yeah.
used to go on the country drives together. It was
Damn
not
it.
pleasant.
Damn
That's
it.
brilliant. All right,
I rocked up to a game with Dave, Richmond Essendon game with Dave in those plates.
Yeah, it was bad.
Underneath, everyone's looking at.
Once Anzac Day kicked in, I thought I need to get.
How long did you before you got rid of them?
It was, I reckon, July of that year. I bought the.
So you got a different car. You didn't get rid of the plates.
No,
you
I
got
got
rid of the whole car.
Yeah, I got rid of the car. Yeah. Actually, no, I lie. I got rid of the car then, but I think I got rid of the plates in like January. I actually reckon I got to training.
It wouldn't have taken long.
Yeah, I was copping way too much flack, and I was like, I need to get rid of these
Who led
plates.
the flack
Yeah.
charge? Who was India straight away?
Well, definitely wasn't you. You don't remember him. It might have been Lovey, I reckon.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Lovey.
Spike.
Or Spike. Spike, definitely, yeah. Spike and or was Woosha.
Spike, yeah,
It was
Spike and Woosha.
Actually, yeah. I've got that, yeah. I've got there's my very first Bomber TV interview was with Woosha, and he was asking about the number plates. Yeah. So it was Welshie, yeah.
What's the score count?
All right, so 2 out of 4. Not bad.
Sorry about that, Winnie.
Oh, 50%. Yeah, not bad.
all right.
They look like nice beers, but that's okay.
All right, question 1. What year did Scottie debut? A, 1996, B, 1994, C, 1997.
God, he hasn't given me much room to move here, has he? So 2000, what do we say? 2009, you retired.
How many did you kick in your first game? 0. Goose egg.
Donuts.
Yeah,
How long?
okay.
How many minutes did you play in your first game?
Not a lot. No, it was a bit different back then. You usually played about, I reckon my first 3 or 4 games, I played about a quarter to a half in each because there's no rotations.
Yes, no, exactly
Yeah.
back then, yeah. Sit with the old blanket over your knees.
Yep.
What year?
94,
Wrong. 1996.
96.
But there's a bonus question. What round did he debut? What game?
I don't get a multiple choice.
Nope. You didn't get it on your
if
bonus one.
No, you're right.
Significant.
If it's significant Anzac Day,
Bang. Spot on.
there you go.
Back in the game.
you would always bring stuff back to Anzac Day, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
No matter anything.
Do you have any stories about No.
How was that though, debuting in your first Anzac Day? Like that's ridiculous. Yeah, that's
A
amazing.
few of us did. About 4 of us did over 2 or 3 years.
Sheeds was big with that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Debuting in big games and
games.
just throwing you in, but then sitting you on the bench.
Yep.
Yeah.
And watching the game.
Yeah.
So you didn't really play in the game. You just watched the game.
Yeah.
In your uniform.
All right, Winnie's
so one.
coming back here.
1. All right. How many games did Scottie play? A, 255, B, 270, C, 285.
This is hard because you got to. The years. It's too difficult to figure out. So
That's the whole point of the quiz, mate.
You can at least give me some spread.
Well, I
in
wasn't
some
going to
of those
say
answers.
150. You know he's not going to play
all right.
150. Yeah.
All right, sorry, go again.
So 255, 270, 285.
285.
Wrong.
What is it? The first one.
270.
270. Of course, you'd do the middle one.
Yeah. My quiz has got a trend. I think I've gone A, B, C. All right. So last question. You need this right for the bonus question.
Okay.
We always want a bonus question.
Yeah.
Come on,
So
mate.
you got to help me out here then.
How many years of football did I play with Scottie? A, 3, B, 1, C, 0.
You would have played at least one. 2009 would have been your first year, wasn't it?
You're answering the question.
I don't know. I was just trying to get one out of you. Yeah, that's true. 2001 year.
1 year. Correct.
Yeah.
Good work.
And Scottie didn't talk to me once.
He's one of those bibs and no
It's a
bibs.
lie.
All right, we're into the bonus round.
Bonus question. All right. Now this is if you get it right, Scottie wins the slab.
Oh,
If you
wow.
get it wrong,
That's not fair.
Winston wins
Is that
it.
fair?
Well, I couldn't
Depends on the
think of one
question.
of like both of them. Like,
What if I
could
get
do
it
a
right? They
question
both get a slab. I'm sure Colonial will help us out
Do you
there.
reckon?
Well, I'm
Yeah,
sure they'll help us
sure
out
they will,
there.
Yeah, they will. All right, they can both get one. One of them can get the new the sour. They're really good.
Okay.
Colonial sour.
Yep.
Yep, very good. The orange cans. All right. Question, bonus question. How many goals did Scottie kick in the final quarter against West Coast in round 22, 2007?
8. You got to give me the
Wrong.
number. You got to give me the thing. I was just kidding. You got to give me 4, don't you?
No, hang on.
You've actually just
It's wrong. You got it wrong. You said 8.
But you didn't give me any things. I was
There
just
is no-
jumping the gun. Oh, okay. All right. I was wrong then. Sorry, guys.
Only just.
It comes up in the office a fair bit. This
Does it?
conversation. Oh, this game. Yeah.
I went hard on it, didn't I? Too early. Seven, damn it.
in a quarter.
I actually do. I think first of all, you wouldn't brought that question up unless it was significant. Because if it was 0, it wouldn't have been as fun.
No,
so I thought it was going to be a
exactly,
big,
yes. Well,
beefy
hey, you
number.
weren't far off. Yeah.
Damn it.
7 and a quarter.
7 and a
Take us
quarter.
through
That's
that, mate.
huge.
Take us through your heyday. Come on.
Well, would you like me to go through each one?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Each opponent.
We've got them on the screen.
We actually caught up with an opponent the other
Just
day. It
got-
was a bit like,
Yeah, got on a roll.
couple of minutes.
Got on a roll.
How do you? Well,
But they don't drop. And to the earliest point about defence, there's no numbers drop back.
how'd you not get double teamed?
Yeah,
or
no.
that's-
No. Everyone
Just
played on a
conking
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you just had enough space.
Yeah.
Just smashed the opponent. Yeah. Because they were 50 points down, got within 8.
Yes,
something, didn't
yeah.
they? Almost won a game. And
There you go.
just couldn't
Fell
win, kick a
short.
winning
Are
goal
you-
over here.
You started when. Did you have a part-time job when you started? Did you start
I
when
worked
footy was
full-time.
Full-time
as
job.
well. Builder. Yeah,
Wow.
did it.
How long was that before you transitioned? To
So
full-time footy?
I did year 12 in my first year at Essendon, and then I worked full-time for about 15, 16 months and did 3 days a week for a couple of years, and then it just tiered back. By the time 2001, 2002 came around, working in any shape or form was virtually impossible.
Yep.
It was before then. I had an understanding employer that when I started, he was happy to take me, just tier me back. Whereas if you were starting in 1999 and said you could work 3 days a week as a trade, no one would.
So is that what you did? What were you doing?
Yeah, well, I was doing building.
Building.
Yeah, so I was able to keep working because I'd finished my schooling and that, which was good. So I was able to help out. But for someone starting then, too difficult. So I was lucky. I was almost the edge of that time when players worked.
Do you see Dave getting on the building site midweek at all?
Well, you know what, a few.
I'm a 7-day gardener, mate. That's what I am.
Yeah, I know. You got a bit of work on the Ponderosa out there,
There's
don't
some
you?
acreage there that you
Yeah,
have to
there is
handle.
some acreage.
You sit on your drive-on lawnmower. That's what I see on
You
Instagram.
should come out there. It's looking immaculate at the
I
moment.
saw it. It looked like a golf course. I said it the other day. We've got to
See?
set up a chipping, little chipping.
That's all I
group.
do, mate. Train and work in the yard. I'm a farmer. But thank you two, for coming
Thanks
in.
for that.
Pleasure, boys.
We're going to be sending. We'll get. You know what? We're going to do an
fine.
Ellen or an Oprah.
right.
Everyone's getting a slab. You're getting a slab. You're getting a slab. Thanks for playing.
Don't have to look under our chair for the gift, the prize.
Exactly. But thank you so much for
Thanks
coming
for
in.
coming, guys.
Great to
Cheers,
chat,
guys.
boys.
Great
Thank you.
insight. Thanks for watching another episode, guys. We hope you enjoyed it. It was a great one from our point of view.
Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube, guys. Make sure you don't miss an episode whenever they drop.
And if you want to listen on any of your podcast devices, Apple or Spotify, make sure you subscribe to that and give us 5-star review and leave us a comment.
See you next time.